Well, nearly a decade ago, a baby named Joel was beaten. Now, he recovered, but then it happened again. The I-Team has taken a closer look at how the system failed baby Joel and how it forever changed a once vibrant and healthy child.
This was Joel at 2 years old after he recovered from a severe beating when he was 2 months old. Foster parent Paula Cheney nursed him to health after Joel and his older sister, who was not physically harmed, were placed in her home through protective custody.
He did get a lot better, a lot stronger. And then he started to just come around and to crawl, and he was really thriving.
Joel's father, Hobart Weathersby, pleaded guilty to gross misdemeanor child abuse and neglect. The sentence, 12 months in jail. According to Metro Police, Joel's mother, Alicia Corte, gave detectives inconsistent statements about how Joel got hurt, but she was never charged. A series of events would later unfold that would place Joel in harm's way again.
You're blaming yourself somehow, even though you've stepped up so much. Why?
Because I feel like I could have done more.
The children's mother worked with Child Protective Services, or CPS, and had increased contact and visits with both children. And 2 years after they were placed in Paula's home, she received unexpected news both children would be placed back with their mother.
My heart dropped because I wasn't prepared for that.
Paula says Joel was attached to her. A CPS spokesman tells the I-Team it's up to the biological parents on whether foster parents can stay in touch with the children. Paula says she offered to help the mother, but she was warned by a CPS supervisor to stay away.
It's like a death. I don't know if you ever experienced it. It's like a death.
2 months later,
I just had a feeling that something wasn't right.
Paula learned from a CPS worker Joel had been beaten again.
And he was just so little, and I just started praying and saying, Lord, he may not make it through the night. I said, you fight, and I'll make sure this time that you're safe,
Joel did survive, but his life would never be the same. Joel's mother was arrested and convicted of felony child abuse. According to a CPS spokesman, the supervisor who Paula says warned her to stay away from the children is still employed, making a $94,000 salary.
I think that she should have a cell right next to the mom.
CPS does not release information about specific cases, but a spokesman released a statement about reuniting children with parents, which reads in part, "These decisions are reviewed internally by supervisors and/or a multidisciplinary team that includes clinical staff, the DA's office, and other child welfare experts, and then by a judge who can overrule our recommendations. A single supervisor does not make decisions on their own regarding removals or reunification."
How you doing this morning, Joa?
That second beating left Joel wheelchair-bound, nonverbal, and legally blind. He's also fed through a tube. In January, he turned 10 years old. For Joel and his sister, home is with Paula. She adopted them.
My heart desire is to make sure that this little boy has the best opportunity and the best that life has to offer. Yeah, we as adults failed him the first time. We did.
Alicia Corte is expected to be released from prison later this year, and she may be deported. Vanessa Murphy, 8 News Now.
Tomorrow night, right here on 8 News Now, Joel's story does continue. Find out how a prosecutor has connections with the family and how she's trying to help as Paula and Joel face another hurdle.
A tragic child abuse case led to a bond between the prosecutor and a foster mother. Tonight, the I-Team's Vanessa Murphy shows us how that Valley woman is now in need after years of giving so much.
This little boy, Joel, had already been through so much at just 2 years old. He had recovered from a severe beating when he was 2 months old. His father was sent to jail. Then as a toddler, it happened again. Joel's mother was sent to prison this time.
Rise and shine, baby Joe.
But that second beating left the once healthy child needing around-the-clock care.
Ready for some water, man?
Paula Cheney starts her day just after 5 in the morning.
It needs to work.
With suctioning, medicine, bathing, and more.
Oh, you think it's funny, huh?
As she gets Joel ready
He's having oatmeal for breakfast.
to head to school.
Then I'll put him some banana in there.
The first time Joel was hurt, he and his older sister Jennifer, who was not physically harmed, were placed in Paula's home through protective custody. She was a foster parent. Child Protective Services then placed both children back with their mother. After the second time Joel was hurt, he was expected to be placed in an out-of-state facility.
The biological relatives, they only wanted Jennifer. They didn't want him. And so I'm thinking, so I told him, I'll take him.
Paula adopted both children.
At this point, I'm thinking, I gotta do something. I can't let him go this time.
Paula took on a little boy who was never going to walk again, never going to be able to eat on his own, never be able to go to the bathroom on his own. And she didn't even blink twice at it. So to say that that is rare, it is an overstatement. Like, she is truly such a special person.
Jacqueline Bluth was the prosecutor on Joel's mother's case, but her involvement with the family didn't stop when that criminal case was over.
Always saying, is there anything that she could do?
The chief deputy district attorney has helped the family and even showed up with Christmas gifts. But there's one thing she's hoping the community can rally together for.
They need a wheelchair accessible van.
How was school, baby Joe? Let's get your ticket on here.
Joel is about 80 pounds and growing. Paula is 72 years old.
Come on. Come on.
Because it's so difficult for Paula to load Joel in and out of her car,
Not raining, that's good. Come on.
even a medical appointment is a struggle.
And you wait right here.
So Joel's mainly restricted to home and school.
Okay.
I think she blames herself a little bit for that as well, because she wants him to go out, right? She wants him to live as normal of a life as possible.
That second time Joel was beaten, he was expected to die. Paula stayed by his side and prayed. When Joel did survive, he was expected to be in a complete vegetative state. But with Paula's care, he's improved more than anyone could predict.
He calls you Mama.
Mama, yeah, Mama, yeah.
What is it like to hear that from that little boy?
Well, just to see him overall, it's just so heartwarming to see him, and you see how happy he is. Brush that baby's teeth.
In January, Joel turned 10 years old.
I just think that there are certain cases out there and certain people that are so special that they stand out. Not to say that I haven't worked with amazing families, because I have, but very, very few have struck me like Paula has.
Vanessa Murphy,
I think she just deserves so much more than I could ever give her.
8 News Now.
Pretty amazing woman, right? Prosecutor Jacqueline Bluth has started a GoFundMe page to help raise money to get Joel and Paula that wheelchair accessible van she really needs. If you would like to help, you can go to our website at lasvegasnow.com and click on the story. Also, the I-Team dug deeper into what unfolded with Joel as a baby, and you can find that investigative report on our website as well.
Tonight, a story that will warm your heart and really restore your faith in humanity. 8 News Now had a front row seat to a kind of generosity not seen very often. Thank you for joining us at 11. I'm Brian Loftus.
And I'm Denise Valdez. We recently introduced you to Joel and his adoptive mother, Paula. They needed help. And tonight, the I-Team's Vanessa Murphy reminds us just how tough their life could be and shows us a miracle no one saw coming.
Rise and shine, baby Joe.
Paula Cheney's dedication to her adoptive son Joel knows no bounds.
Ready for some water, man?
At 2 months old, he was placed in Paula's home through protective custody after he was beaten. Joel was placed back with his mother 2 years later and was abused again. A second beating left the once healthy child unable to walk and needing around-the-clock care. Paula adopted Joel and his older sister, who was not physically harmed.
My heart desire is to make sure that this little boy has the best opportunity and the best that life has to offer.
Jacqueline Bluth, who prosecuted Joel's mother for child abuse, has stayed in touch with the family, helping with Christmas gifts and support for Paula as she cares for Joel.
I think she just deserves so much more than I could ever give her.
She noticed how Paula, who's 72 years old, struggles to transport Joel, who's in a wheelchair. He's 10 years old and weighs about 80 pounds.
They need a wheelchair-accessible van. Too young,
As
like
the I-Team reported, the Chief Deputy District Attorney has been trying to raise money for it. Our two stories on how the system failed Joel and about Paula's dedication to the boy got the attention of viewers like Paul Jaramillo.
We were touched by the story, and having used mobility vehicles for years, we know how easy it makes your life.
Paul lost his ability to walk about 5 years ago after being diagnosed with PLS, primary lateral sclerosis, which progressively causes weakness in muscles. The disease has also taken his voice. Paul's son James also uses a wheelchair due to an accident 14 years ago. The family, which runs Par 3 Landscape and Maintenance, a longtime and successful Las Vegas business, contacted the I-Team to say Paul would buy Paula and Joel a van.
I'm so grateful that this story impacted my dad to the extent that it did, and we're able to be involved now.
The I-Team visited Paula Monday, 1 week after the first story aired, for what she thought was an update on how the community responded with comments and calls.
I'm telling you, it's just been really, really good, surprising.
Paula didn't know what was waiting outside.
I'll let you get the door.
Hi!
Jacqueline walked Paula outside for the big reveal.
So,
Oh, stop, girl!
so this right here is yours.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Okay, you deserve this. You deserve this.
I hear Joel's laughing and smiling.
Over here, we have the Jaramillo family.
This is Paul.
So Paula, he saw you on the news.
He did. Oh,
And he was so moved by your story that he went and he bought this van for you.
he did. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Life will be different for Paula and Joel now with this 2016 Honda Odyssey.
I need to meet Joel now.
Nice to meet you. Oh, yeah, come on. Meet you.
Hey, buddy.
He won't be confined to school and home anymore.
It's something that hits close to home for our family, and my dad watched the broadcast last week on the news that Vanessa did about your situation, and he was touched and wanted to do something.
Well, I appreciate it. I really do appreciate it. I just don't have the words. Words just don't show.
Well, you don't need any words, just take the keys.
It's all yours, buddy.
In addition to the Jaramillos, 8 News Now viewers donated more than $50,000 to a GoFundMe account called Wheels for Joel.
We set up the fund with the idea of getting a van, but thank you to the Jaramillos, we didn't have to use that money. And so I'm setting up a trust for Joel that we can put that money in for his future treatment or for your needs and taking care of him.
The Las Vegas Valley stepping up after a tragedy.
It was an act of evil and malevolence that put Joel in this situation. It takes an angel like Paula in order to pick up the pieces and help him lead a normal life and take care of him.
Vanessa Murphy.
You're the true angel.
Oh, thank you.
8 News Now.
Oh.
It's pretty great, right? The GoFundMe page remains active for anyone else who would like to contribute for Joel's care. Prosecutor Jacqueline Bluth says for anyone who has donated and wants their money back since the Jaramillos paid for the van, they can contact her and she will give them their money back. For more information, you can visit the online version of this story at lasvegasnow.com.
Well, the family gets a settlement with Clark County after the death of a child. It is a follow-up to a story that the I-Team first brought you last year. Vanessa Murphy is here with the most recent update. Vanessa.
Yeah, viewers really responded to this original story we first did last year, and now Clark County will pay $100,000 to Abigail Bennett's family. Metro Police say the 3-year-old was beaten to death by her father. Court transcripts reveal there were warning signs. The child's grandparents tried sounding the alarm, and CPS failed to take appropriate action. The family sued, and now taxpayers will foot the bill for the agency's failure. The settlement was approved by Clark County commissioners this morning. As the I-Team reported last year, CPS hired an outside agency to work with the family. That agency was not prepared to deal with such a potentially dangerous situation. Abigail was killed in 2016. Court records show she was beaten so badly, her heart exploded, and she was suffering from a broken back and ribs days before she died. We interviewed Abigail's grandmother last year, who was obviously heartbroken. The father, Justin Bennett, is awaiting trial for murder. Abigail had 2 siblings. This money is expected to go to an estate and the 2 surviving children. We reached out to the county for a comment about the settlement and to ask whether changes have been made within the agency or whether anyone has been held accountable as a result of this failure. A spokesman says they're not permitted to discuss specific cases or personnel matters. It's an answer we are used to hearing, or a non-answer.
That is horrific. Thank you so much.
A Las Vegas mother is trying to hold Child Protective Services, or CPS, accountable after the death of her son. She says CPS could have helped prevent his murder.
The I-Team's Vanessa Murphy has this exclusive story you'll only see here on 8 News Now.
Paul Jones was on probation for child abuse when his son and daughter were taken from their mother and placed in his care. Months later, Jones would be arrested for the murder of his son, 13-year-old Aaron.
It's hard to believe my son is dead.
Dejanay Thomas is Aaron's mother. She and her attorney, Marjorie Hoff, sat down with the I-Team.
It's not something that I would ever understand.
Thomas says Aaron and his sister were removed from her care by Child Protective Services, or CPS, because she could no longer take medication for mental health needs due to a pregnancy. She claims Paul Jones had no prior relationship with the children before they were placed with him in June of 2016. This court document states he was awarded custody by CPS. He lived in this 1-bedroom at the Siegel Suites with his wife and, according to a police report, 11 other children. The year before, he was arrested for abusing his stepdaughter, who claimed he hit her with a cable. Court records reveal he didn't even follow the rules for probation.
He ended up doing it again. This is why CPS shouldn't have never trusted that.
According to an arrest report, Jones did do it again, this time to Aaron. Detectives say they learned from several people Jones would punish Aaron by making him stand against a wall with his arms up while other children were encouraged to hit him with anything they chose. Aaron wasn't allowed to protect himself. By December of 2016, Aaron was missing, but no one told police. And according to detectives, Jones kept cashing Aaron's Social Security checks. In April of 2017, family members began a search of their own near the Jones home and discovered human remains.
Come to find out, when they tested the bone of the teeth, it was my son.
That's really hard to think about.
That is.
Paul Jones spoke with 8 News Now from jail shortly after his arrest in 2017.
It's like all fingers are pointing at me when I didn't do nothing to him.
Police say Jones later admitted to striking Aaron in the head, and when the boy wasn't responsive, he put his body in this desert area. Now Dejanay Thomas is suing Jones, along with Clark County, CPS, and several employees. The lawsuit alleges CPS didn't do a background check on Jones and never visited the 2 children after they were placed with him.
Not a single follow-up.
Whose fault is that?
That is CPS's fault.
What about the argument that CPS didn't harm the child, Paul Jones did?
CPS did harm the child. A child can't decide where they're going to live or where they're going to be placed. CPS absolutely made the decision to take this child and his sister and put them in a dangerous environment. That was not their choice. It was not their mother's choice.
2 CPS employees are specifically named in the lawsuit. Both still work there. According to a CPS spokesman, Carol Falcone is a senior family services specialist making nearly $85,000 a year. Paula Hammock is the assistant director making nearly $123,000. Also a plaintiff, Siegel Sweets.
There's no way these kids were going through the horror that they were going through without there being some alert to the people that own that property.
The I-Team reached out to CPS about this case. A spokesman said he could not release specific information due to Nevada state law. He directed us to a child welfare disclosure form which reveals numerous contacts with the family since 2006.
It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking.
Hoff insists this lawsuit is aimed at fixing this system which could have saved Aaron.
They're failing at protecting our children. And if people like Dejanay aren't brave enough to take them to task for it, it'll continue to happen.
Vanessa Murphy, 8 News Now.
We gave the county numerous chances to respond to the story on the record, and our request was repeatedly declined.
The district attorney's office is seeking the death penalty against Paul Jones. Jones's attorney is arguing that he is intellectually disabled and therefore cannot be given the death penalty.
A hearing to decide that is scheduled for March. We've learned there may have been warning signs leading up to the death of a 4-year-old boy. It's an update to a story that the I-Team first broke here last week. Vanessa Murphy is here with more on a document which tells us about the days leading up to the boy's death. Vanessa?
And it is clear there were warning signs here. We've learned CPS was contacted with concerns about both the child and or his family and the woman now accused of killing him, according to the Department of Family Services in Clark County. 4-year-old Brandon Steckler died last week after investigators say they found him with broken ribs, burns, possible rat bites, and numerous serious injuries. This woman, Crystal Stevens, called police and claimed she found Brandon limp and unresponsive in the bathtub. Investigators say she told them she was caring for the boy but didn't know his last name or which shelter his mother was in. Brandon died a day after he was taken to the hospital. Stevens faces a murder charge. Now, today, this report was released. It states CPS was contacted 5 times about concerns regarding Brandon and or his family, the most recent on July 3rd. But CPS investigated once out of the 5 times and found allegations unsubstantiated. The report also states CPS was contacted 4 times about the adult who was caring for the child during the deadly incident, which would be referring to Crystal Stevens. Twice, no investigation took place. The other 2 times, allegations were found to be unsubstantiated after investigations did take place. Now, this is a problem the I-Team has been reporting on. Children dying after there were warning signs and complaints made to CPS. We've learned today Clark County Family Services is reporting an increase in fatalities over the past few years and is identifying a need for a review to prevent other deaths. Tomorrow, the Clark County Commission will be asked to approve a grant for more than $44,000 from Nevada's Division of Child and Family Services to improve services to children in Clark County who may be abused or neglected or in the foster system. Back to you.
The I-Team has reported on several specific child abuse cases this year, and as with many of these stories, Child Protective Services was involved, and the I-Team revealed flaws with some cases.
And the I-Team's Vanessa Murphy has an exclusive interview with a former employee who says one department at the agency needs to change.
Clark County's Child Abuse and Neglect Hotline is often the first point of contact at the Department of Family Services, which could help save a child. Anyone can call in a report.
I think the whole point of the Department of Family Services is we're there to protect the permanency, safety, and well-being of children. And I don't think it's happening.
Kelly Budd is a former employee at the DFS hotline. She claims the goal was quantity over quality, to take more calls and less information.
I think a lot of times things fell through the cracks because, you know, it got to the point where the people answering the phone were more concerned about, well, what's going to happen if I don't finish this phone call in 20 minutes?
She also describes a no-call list.
A list of names where when these people called in reports, we did not, no matter what they were saying, it did not result in a report or an investigation. Sometimes it would be refer them to a supervisor. Other times it would be just make a case note and go on to the next call. And when I got into this line of work, my thinking was like, we're here to protect children.
A spokesman for Clark County confirmed to the I-Team there is a list of 11 people, and some are frequent callers who complain about issues that do not involve a child being in danger, and some have significant mental health problems. Now, while it may sound like the boy who cried wolf, Bud says that may not always be the case.
So if this report was legitimate, nobody ever checked on those children.
She says better management is needed.
They need to rethink their structure of how they're scheduling people, or hire additional call takers. Or maybe a thought, when it's that backed up, have a supervisor hop on the phone and start taking some calls. Because that didn't happen.
Bud tells the I-Team she still works in the same field but moved out of state to take another job, in part, she says, because she feared the worst.
I really felt like at some point there's going to be a child that's going to be injured or hurt because of the practices, and they weren't doing anything about it, and I couldn't sleep.
Vanessa Murphy, 8 News Now.
When the I-Team reached out to the county about those 11 people on the list, we were told all of the callers on that list are connected to a manager or supervisor when they do call. And the county also stated during any call, if it is believed a child is involved and may be the victim of abuse or neglect, someone will respond. You can find other stories our I-Team has done on our website, LasVegasNow.com.
The I-Team has been shedding light on how the system, which is supposed to protect children, in some cases has failed them.
According to 2 Clark County commissioners, though, an effort is underway to fix Child Protective Services. Vanessa Murphy talked with them and is here with their story.
Child Protective Services has had a history of problems, and who suffers? Children. Now, this is the first time any commissioners have responded to the stories we've worked on over the past year and a half. We also have a warning. Some of the content in this story is graphic and disturbing.
We ought to see the kinds of things you've shown us as serious tragedies. And there ought to be a continuing commitment to find cracks and fill them.
We're always making changes. Would I tell you that any system is perfect? Absolutely not.
The Clark County Commission oversees Child Protective Services. Jim Gibson and Marilyn Kirkpatrick are the only commissioners who agreed to sit down with the I-Team after we exposed system flaws. A lack of internal communication, employees not researching cases, and as a result, some children being left in abusive homes.
I miss her terribly.
Bernadine Morimoto says she tried to warn CPS about her granddaughter's father, but in 2016, 3-year-old Abigail was killed. According to the child's autopsy, she was beaten so badly her heart exploded, and she had broken ribs and a broken back days before she died. Justin Bennett is in jail awaiting trial. The family sued CPS. Gibson and Kirkpatrick were not on the commission at the time of Abigail's death, but they did approve a $100,000 settlement with the family.
One child loss is one too many.
Governor Steve Sisolak did serve on the commission at the time of Abigail's death. Politics Now co-anchor Steve Sebelius asked him about CPS at an 8 News Now debate during his run for governor.
I mean, it should be an immediate, it should be given a higher priority.
The Nevada Department of Health and Human Services also oversees CPS. The now governor, Sisolak, kept Richard Whitley as the director, a position he's had since 2015. The I-Team took a closer look at the governor's budget proposal and noticed only a slight increase in funding for CPS.
We see a lot of the same kids in different agencies. It would be great if the state would fund. My friends at the state would probably choke me right now, but if they would actually fund a system where you could have all of that in one.
Kirkpatrick says work is already underway to improve the computer program CPS employees use. She also points to better communication between CPS and the court system. And Gibson says changes are underway with how cases are reviewed. Both insist this isn't just an agency problem, though. They say it's a community problem.
Anytime one child dies, it's too many, right? It's a tragedy. I couldn't imagine that scenario whatsoever. But we have to remember that there is somebody that's accountable for that, the parents, right? They have a responsibility.
But when parents fail, The agency tasked with stepping in to protect children and help prevent deaths like Abigail's is CPS.
As tough as it is to sit, for instance, in this seat and have some unique responsibility for family services and all of the things that are a part of that, I think it's also important that the public is fully aware, because I think that an informed public is a public that can help step up.
And one recommendation from Commissioner Gibson: if you think a child is in an abusive situation, report it. We have information on how you can reach CPS on our website at lasvegasnow.com.
So clearly for that story, you talked to two Clark County commissioners. You were also trying to talk to the head of the CPS in Clark County for this report. What happened with that?
We reached out to Tim Burch through a spokesman, and the spokesman said, well, you already talked to two commissioners, so he's not going to sit down with you, okay? We also requested an interview with Governor Sisolak, a more recent interview. We were instead provided a statement that is on our website.
All right, thanks for that update.